of this type was the comparative method, which was developed over many years, culminating in the 19th century. This uses a long word list and detailed study. However, it has been criticized for example as being subjective, being informal, and lacking testability. The comparative method uses information from two or more languages and allows reconstruction of the ancestral language. The method of internal reconstruction uses only a single language with comparison of word variants to perform the same function. Internal reconstruction is more resistant to interference but usually has a limited available base of utilizable words and is able to reconstruct only certain changes, those that have left traces as morphophonological variations. In the 20th century, an alternative method, lexicostatistics, was developed, which is mainly associated with Morris Swadesh but is based on earlier work. This uses a short word list of basic vocabulary in the various languages for comparisons. Swadesh used 100, earlier 200, items that are assumed to be cognate on the basis of phonetic similarity in the languages being compared, though other lists have also been used. Distance measures are derived by examination of language pairs, but such methods reduce the information. An outgrowth of lexicostatistics is glottochronology, initially developed in the 1950s, which proposed a mathematical formula for establishing the date when two languages separated based on percentage of a core vocabulary of culturally independent words. In its simplest form, a constant rate of change is assumed, though later versions allow variance but still fail to achieve reliability. Glottochronology has met with mounting skepticism and is seldom applied today. Dating estimates can now be generated by computerized methods that have fewer restrictions, calculating rates from the data. However, no mathematical means of producing proto-language split times on the basis of lexical retention has been proven reliable. Another controversial method, developed by Joseph Greenberg, is mass comparison. The method, which disavows any ability to date developments, aims simply to show which languages are more and less close to each other. Greenberg suggested that the method is useful for preliminary grouping of languages known to be related, as a first step toward more in-depth comparative analysis. However, since mass comparison eschews the establishment of regular changes, it is flatly rejected by the majority of historical linguists. Recently, computerized statistical hypothesis testing methods have been developed, which are related to both the comparative method and lexicostatistics. Character-based methods are similar to the former and distance-based methods are similar to the latter. See quantitative comparative linguistics. The characters used can be morphological or grammatical as well as lexical. Since the mid-1990s, these more sophisticated tree and network-based phylogenetic methods have been used to investigate the relationships between languages and to determine approximate dates for proto-languages. These are considered by many to show promise but are not wholly accepted by traditionalists. However, they are not intended to replace older methods but to supplement them. Such statistical methods cannot be used to derive the features of a proto-language, apart from the fact of the existence of shared items of the compared vocabulary. These approaches have been challenged for their methodological problems, since without a reconstruction or at least a detailed list of phonological correspondences, there can be no demonstration that two words in different languages are cognate. Related fields. There are other branches of linguistics that involve comparing languages, which are not, however, part of comparative linguistics. Linguistic typology compares languages to classify them by their features. Its ultimate aim is to understand the universals that govern language and the range of types found in the world's languages in respect of any particular feature, word, order, or vowel system. For example, typological similarity does not imply a historical relationship. However, typological arguments can be used in comparative linguistics. One reconstruction may be preferred to another as typologically more plausible. Contact linguistics examines the linguistic results of contact between the speakers of different languages, particularly as evidenced in loan words An empirical study of loans is by definition historical in focus and therefore forms part of the subject matter of historical linguistics. One of the goals of etymology is to establish which items in a language's vocabulary result from linguistic contact. This is also an important issue both for the comparative method and for the lexical comparison methods, since failure to recognize a loan may distort the findings. Contrastive linguistics compares languages usually with the aim of assisting language learning by identifying important differences between the learner's native and target languages. Contrastive linguistics deals solely with present-day languages. Pseudo-linguistic comparisons. Comparative linguistics includes the study of the historical relationships of languages using the comparative method to search for regular, i.e. recurring, correspondences between the language's phonology, grammar, and core vocabulary, and, through hypothesis testing, some persons with little or no specialization in the field sometimes attempt to establish historical associations between languages by noting similarities between them in a way that is considered pseudo-scientific by specialists, e.g. African-Egyptian comparisons. The most common method applied in pseudo-scientific language comparisons is to search two or more languages for words that seem similar in their sound and meaning. While similarities of this kind often seem convincing to laypersons, linguistic scientists consider this kind of comparison to be unreliable for two primary reasons. First, the method applied is not well defined. The criterion of similarity is subjective and thus not subject to verification or falsification, which is contrary to the principles of the scientific method. Second, the large size of all languages' vocabulary and a relatively limited inventory of articulated sounds used by most languages makes it easy to find coincidentally similar words between languages. There are sometimes political or religious reasons for associating languages in ways that some linguists would dispute. For example, it has been suggested that the Turanian or Ural-Altaic language group, which relates Sami and other languages to the Mongolian language, was used to justify racism towards the Sami in particular. There are also strong, albeit aerial not genetic, similarities between the Uralic and Altaic languages which provided an innocent basis for this theory. In 1930s Turkey, some promoted the Sun language theory, one that showed that Turkic languages were close to the original language. Some believers in Abrahamic religions try to derive their native languages from Classical Hebrew, as Herbert W. Armstrong, a proponent of British Israelism, who said that the word British comes from Hebrew Brit meaning covenant and Ish meaning man, supposedly proving that the British people are the covenant people of God. And Lithuanian-American archaeologist Maria Gimbutas argued during the mid-1900s that Basque is clearly related to the extinct Pictish and Etruscan languages, in an attempt to show that Basque was a remnant of an old European culture. In the Dissertatio de Origine Gentium Americanarum, 1625, the Dutch lawyer Hugo Grotius proves that the American Indians, Mohawks, speak a language, lingua maquashorum, derived from Scandinavian languages. Grotius was on Sweden's payroll, supporting Swedish colonial pretensions in America. The Dutch doctor, Johannes Goropius Becanus, in his Origines Antwerpiana 1580, admits, Quis est enim qui non amet patrium sermonim, who does not love his father's language, whilst asserting that Hebrew is derived from Dutch. The Frenchman Eloy Johannot claimed in 1818, Mélanges d'origines, etymologiques et de questions grammaticales, that the Celtic language is the oldest, and the mother of all others. In 1759, Joseph de Guines theorized, Mémoire dans lequel on prouve que les Chinois sont une colonie égyptienne, that the Chinese and Egyptians were related, the former being a colony of the latter. In 1885, Edward Tregear, the Aryan and Maori, compared the Maori and Aryan languages. Jean Pratt, in his 1941 Les Longues Natales, claimed that the Bantu languages of Africa are descended from Latin, coining the French linguistic term natal in doing so. But the Bantu language is also claimed to be related to Ancient Egyptian by Muba Binj Bilolo. Ancient Egyptian is, according to Sheikh Anta Diop, related to the Wolof language, and, according to Gilbert Ngom, Ancient Egyptian is similar to the Douala language, just as Egyptian is related to Brabantic. Following Buchanan in his Hieroglyphica, still using comparative methods, the first practitioners of comparative linguistics were not universally acclaimed. Upon reading Buchanan's book, Scaliger wrote, "Never did I read greater nonsense," and Leibniz coined the term goropism, from goropius, to designate a far-sought, ridiculous etymology. There have also been claims that humans are descended from other, non-primate animals, with use of the voice referred to as the main point of comparison. Jean-Pierre Brisset, Le Grande Nouvelle, around 1900, believed and asserted that humans descended from the frog, by linguistic means, due to frogs croaking sounding similar to the French language. He held that the French word logement, dwelling, derived from the word lo, water. Lexicology is the part of linguistics that studies words. This may include their nature and function as symbols, their meaning, the relationship of their meaning to epistemology in general, and the rules of their composition from smaller elements, morphemes such as the English ed marker for past or on for negation, and phonemes as basic sound units. Lexicology also involves relations between words, which may involve semantics, for example, love versus affection, derivation, for example, fathom versus unfathomable use, and sociolinguistic distinctions, for example, flesh versus meat, and any other issues involved in analyzing the whole lexicon of a language. The term first appeared in the 1970s, though there were lexicologists in essence before the term was coined. Computational lexicology is a related field, in the same way that computational linguistics is related to linguistics, that deals with the computational study of dictionaries and their contents. An allied science to lexicology is lexicography, which also studies words, but primarily in relation with dictionaries. It is concerned with the inclusion of words in dictionaries, and from that perspective with the whole lexicon. Sometimes, lexicography is considered to be part or a branch of lexicology, but properly speaking, only lexicologists who actually write dictionaries are lexicographers. Some consider this a distinction of theory versus practice. Etymology. The word lexicology derives from the Greek lexicon, newt, of lexikos, over for words, from lexis, speech, word, in turn from lego, to say, to speak, and logia, the study of, a suffix derived from logos, amongst others meaning speech, oration, discourse, quote, study, calculation, reason, in turn also from lego. Lexical semantics. Domain semantic relations between words are of many kinds, for example homonymy, antonymy, meronymy, and paronymy. Semantics is specifically involved in lexicological work is called lexical semantics. Lexical semantics is somewhat different from the semantics of larger units such as phrases, sentences, and complete texts, or discourses, because it does not involve the same degree of compositional semantics complexities. However, the notion of word can be extremely complex, particularly in agglutinative languages, outside but related to linguistics. Other forms of semantics are studied, such as cultural semantics and computational semantics. The latter may refer either to computational lexicology or mathematical logic. Historiolexical semantics may not be understood without a brief exploration of its history. Pre-structuralist semantics as a linguistic discipline has its beginning in the middle of the 19th century, and because linguistics at the time was predominantly diachronic, thus lexical semantics was diachronic too. It dominated the scene between the years of 1870 and 1930. Diachronic lexical semantics was interested without a doubt in the change of meaning, with predominantly semasiological approach, taking the notion of meaning in a psychological aspect. Lexical meanings were were considered to be psychological entities, thoughts and ideas, and meaning changes are explained as resulting from psychological processes. Structuralists